Greetings, wrestling fans and newbies alike. Welcome to our wrestling show, where we decide who really won the Monday Night Wars.
Last time, we looked at the first episode of Monday Nitro. Today, we're heading to September 11th, 1995, which is the first night that Monday Nitro and Monday Night Raw went head-to-head. Nitro is coming at us live from Miami, Florida. The first thing I noticed was there was huge fireworks, really intricate lighting and camera work, and they kind of do this nice little fancy pan over to the announce table, and it's like a pretty big production.
Perfect energy to match Miami.
Yeah, and it's a lot better than the awkward kind of green screen intros that Raw is doing for a lot of their shows around this time. A few things I want to note here about the presentation, kind of setting a distinction between the look of Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro. You'll see this transparent Nitro logo around the ring skirt, and also the black ropes with the red turnbuckles is a really distinctive look.
We've got the same announce team as last time, Bischoff, Heenan, and Mongo, who looks a little bit like a bootleg Penn Jillette. Before the first match, we get a recap of the confrontation between Hogan and Luger from last week.
Just stick that stinky palm of yours out, brother. You don't have to wait till next week.
So that's setting up the main event for tonight, which will be Hogan holding the belt against the challenger, Lex Luger. But the first match is Sabu making his WCW debut versus Alex Wright. Another thing we didn't mention last time was that the first episode of Nitro featured this video package for Sabu. Now, Sabu was previously working in the ECW, and he's done a lot of other international work, but the video had like fake ECW music and that weird sort of trailing lights thing that ECW puts on a lot of their video packages. It was very interesting to me to see them basically hype up an ECW style package for an ECW wrestler on a WCW show. So, much like the first episode of Nitro, this episode starts with a real high-flying match, a lot of crazy high spots, acrobatics, and technical stuff that, again, you probably didn't normally see on an episode of Raw. I don't believe that any direct mention of ECW is made, but Bischoff does say that he first saw Sabu in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and New Japan Pro Wrestling and WCW kind of did some shows together and traded talent throughout the 90s. I really like the moment where Sabu is on the ground and a small child reaches out to give him some encouragement.
Touch.
Don't touch.
Sabu wins this match with a pin, but he gets too big for his britches and puts Alex Wright through a table, getting him disqualified so that Alex Wright ends up with the win.
I think the table spot's kind of awkward. You didn't see a lot of this in WCW at the time. It was more of an ECW thing. And I think it's really amusing how he sets Alex on the table and then Alex kind of sits up and then waits for Sabu to put him through it.
He kind of looks like a cat when he first wakes up and he's just kind of like sitting there like confused and waiting.
Yeah, and it's also, you can kind of see after he puts him through it, he kind of like shoves him off of him. He's like, all right, we're done here. I'm not doing this anymore. I could be wrong, but I don't think you see Sabu come back to WCW after this. I'm pretty sure he went to Japan and then returned to ECW. Moving on, Ric Flair comes to the ring next to talk to Mean Gene, and he kind of cuts a promo on Arn Anderson, who he's currently having a feud with. We saw that set up last week. Then he also starts talking trash about Hogan and kind of starts teasing Luger, and Luger comes out to the ring and he's kind of like patting him down, and I don't know if he's just like hazing him. It's weird.
22-inch arms.
It seems like since Luger came onto the scene, all of the energy has just been weird and awkward around him.
Yeah. Another thing we didn't mention last time was that the first episode of Nitro featured a video package with Michael Wall Street, who is formerly IRS, Erwin R. Shyster, Mike Rotunda from the WWF, and he's saying that he left because he wants to be where the big boys play, and where the big boys play is a slogan that we're hearing, I don't know, 500 times per episode?
Yeah, just about.
Anyway, this week he comes out and he's VK Wall Street, and I thought that was really jarring.
As a pretty big fan of IRS from the previous year when he was in WWF, this is disappointing. It's the same character, but he doesn't have the same draw as when he was working with Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, he's coming out to face Sting, and he's wearing this black singlet with gold dollar signs. And when he was IRS, he'd wear the slacks, button up, the tie,
Suspenders,
the whole thing. And the tie would sometimes be like a gimmick in the match. You know, you'd get strung up with it and stuff. He looks so uncomfortable in this singlet. You can see him constantly pulling at his crotch like a...
tugging.
It looks terrible. I don't know if they're just trying to distance themselves from the IRS character. When Big Boss Man first came to WCW, he was the boss, and he basically looked identical. And they did get in trouble for that. And there's been other times there were lawsuits, you know, saying that, hey, you're stealing our character. You know, it's the same guy, but you can't just like put him in the same outfit and call him something else and pretend you're not just stealing our shit. So maybe that's the thinking here.
I don't know. I'm definitely getting the same vibes I got from Big Bubba, where it's just like you have this awesome character and it's just kind of squandered with the generic outfits.
Yeah, really poor presentation. I know we're really hammering in the fact that we don't think he looks good, but I do want to say he comes to the ring in a full suit. The camera cuts away, Sting makes his entrance, Sting's in the ring, the suit's gone, and VK's in his weird little singlet. Ugh. The match itself is a total squash match. It lasts just about 4 minutes. I have nothing to say. It's a good match for Sting. You know, he's doing all his spots. If you never saw Sting before, it's making him look good in a way. It's just... I've seen so much better wrestling from IRS or Mike Rotunda or VK Wall Street that this was like... It was a bummer for me.
This was a really fast match. VK Wall Street puts up a good fight against Sting, but it's not super exciting, and Sting takes the win anyway.
Yeah, Sting wins with a pinfall. Before I move on, I do want to mention that Eric Bischoff at the top of this match gives away the results of the main event for Raw, because Raw is taped that week and he knows the results ahead of time. I'd say it's pretty dirty business. I don't know, what do you think?
I am on his side for this one. I think that Vince is kind of a scummy guy and that Eric's just playing by his rules. Vince's rules, that is.
Yeah, Vince was very cutthroat and did kind of break a lot of traditions and unspoken rules in pro wrestling. So maybe what goes around comes around. Next up, we have another match that was set up on the previous episode of Nitro. It's Scott Norton versus the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Once again, Eric mentions that Scott Norton did a lot of work in Japan. They keep making that link to Japan, and I don't know, I like that he's acknowledging other types of wrestling in other places, because WWF was so reticent to do anything like that a lot of the time. Randy Savage does take the win in this match, but Scott Norton looks great. He's huge.
He looks like a big, beefy brute in this match. It's great to watch.
Yeah, he just throws Savage around like it's nothing, repeatedly. He's just ragdoll with Savage. It's crazy.
Dungeon of Doom! Dungeon of Doom!
This match sees an interference from the Dungeon of Doom, and there isn't a disqualification or anything. The match doesn't get thrown out. But Avalanche does come in, the Shark does come in, inadvertently traps Scott Norton, and Randy Savage is able to get on the top rope, land the flying elbow drop, and take the win with a pin.
I think it was really interesting that there wasn't a DQ from the interference.
Yeah, that's something that I've seen a lot with WCW is I don't understand when they want to enforce the rules. Like, there were other matches where Dungeon of Doom came out, did the same thing, and it got thrown out. Here, Dungeon of Doom comes out and basically secures the win for Savage, but it's a clean win.
Yeah, maybe it has to do with, like, story development. Who's to say?
We mentioned last time that the Dungeon of Doom is a sort of motley crew of monsters and villains led by Kevin Sullivan to be an obstacle to Hulk Hogan, and it's really corny. And one of my favorite moments here is when Kevin Sullivan reaches out to the Shark and gets a big, meaty handful. I don't understand what that's about. He, throughout the night, kind of leads him around like a lost child. Before this, the Shark was Avalanche, and before he was Avalanche, he was Earthquake in the WWF, and he has a background as a sumo wrestler in real life. And I don't know, I always really liked Earthquake. I thought he was cool. There's not a lot of guys that big who can move that fast.
Yeah.
The Shark sucks. That's
Yeah.
a terrible gimmick.
I find it is in the same vein as VK Wall Street and Big Bubba.
Yeah. Again, maybe these characters will develop more over time, but right now I just feel like these WWF guys are getting the shaft.
It's not that I want to put down these reinterpretations of these characters. I just think that there's more potential for something new to be introduced.
Agreed.
Agreed.
That brings us to our main event, Lex Luger against Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight Championship. And it's another by-the-book Hulk Hogan match, pretty much. Luger looks pretty good.
Yeah.
He's able to pull the torture rack out, which looks awesome. It's a really good-looking torture rack, and Hogan sells it great, but he hulks up. It just feels tired. The whole Hulk Hogan gimmick feels very tired at this point. Throughout the match, there are constant shots being fired at the WWF, and that's something that I think we'll see a lot more of as time goes on. WWF is not yet really taking WCW very seriously, so they're not even mentioning them on air. But Eric Bischoff especially is like really going hard against the WWF right now in the commentary.
He decided he didn't want to play with kids anymore. He wanted to come to where the big boys play.
So like I said, Hogan starts hulking up. You know, he's no-selling everything Luger's thrown at him. It's clear that he's going to try to go for the win. And in another bout of inconsistency, the Dungeon of Doom, once more, in this 1 hour-long show, comes out, interferes, and the match gets thrown out. Now, in his entire career, Hulk Hogan has only had a clean loss, meaning, you know, pinfall or submission, to 14 different people. One of those people actually is Lex Luger, but that doesn't occur until 1997. This is the go-home edition of Nitro before the 1995 War Games pay-per-view. And the War Games is a thing that is actually rooted in the NWA. 2 teams of 4 or 5 guys each go head-to-head in a steel cage, but there's 2 rings put side by side. And sometimes it's awesome.
Other times it's really confusing because you're trying to look through the camera lens between 2 cages next to each other. It's really hard to see.
Yeah, it's not a show that I think would look great live either.
I don't know. It seems like it would be easier to see it happening in person. But maybe if you're far away, it would be a little tricky.
I'm recalling this from memory, so I could be wrong, but I think it was the 1993 War Games. There was just the 2 rings put next to each other with a sizable gap in between. And guys would get their leg caught in there, and it looked like a fucking death trap.
That was probably the most horrifying part of watching that match.
I think by the 1994 War Games, they actually sealed that gap up and maybe learned their lesson. Anyway, the War Games teams are the Dungeon of Doom versus the Hulkamaniacs. Now, the Hulkamaniacs is going to be Hulk Hogan, Sting, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Vader. Vader got into some crap with the WCW and wound up leaving. And what we're treated to here is a really incredibly awkward exchange between these guys where essentially Sting is vouching for allowing Lex Luger to be the 4th man. Randy Savage, with his trust no one personality, is not trusting Luger. And Hogan doesn't really know where he stands because twice now Dungeon of Doom have come out, interfered in matches, attacked people, but they didn't touch Lex Luger at all. And is that foreshadowing?
Which side are you on, brother? I'd like to say double goes for me. I'm asking you also.
What do you think of this exchange?
This is a pretty weird one. It is palpably awkward as a viewer. These guys seem like they have known each other for years, but they don't know how to act.
It's also kind of strange that Gene is trying to like be the mic stand between all of them. And Jimmy Hart's also there trying to get in on the conversation.
Yeah, it seems like they're just like a group of 10-year-old boys trying to decide what is best for the group, and nobody can agree with each other.
By Luger coming in here and showing something different than what needs to happen.
Hogan is the deciding vote here in this, and when all is said and done, Luger is accepted onto the team. So that's setting up the War Games 1995 pay-per-view, which we'll take a look at eventually. And that's the end of this episode of Nitro. A decent episode. Mongo did bring back his stupid little dog.
Yeah, and this time, instead of a little devil's outfit, he's in a little like sombrero and poncho. It's pretty cute.
There's a few more things to cover on that episode, but let's move on to the first head-to-head episode of Monday Night Raw.
Raw opens up with a recap of the last few weeks and declares its new fall season. Then we are treated to a new intro for Raw, which I would say has mixed messages for the tone.
Yeah, it opens up scenes of rioting, helicopter lights. You know, it seems like some sort of underground fight club almost. I think it's at the Titan Towers, and I gotta get away. There's this like rooftop wrestling match kind of thing going on. It looks like a riot, but
we get a song.
Yeah. A sort of soft rock blues.
Acoustic-y.
Mellow. I believe the lyric is, "I like it raw." No doubt about it. Make it alive. I like it raw.
It's odd. It's
weak.
It does not match the feel of the visuals.
No, I have no idea whose idea that was, but it's not cool. It's not cool at all. I mentioned earlier, Raw does those green screen openings, and we're treated one here where Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler are superimposed against some random crowd. It's real weird looking. I don't know who they thought they were fooling with these. They could have just as easily looked like they were in some sort of announce booth or control room or something, but whatever.
First up on the card, we've got Razor Ramon and British Bulldog, also known as Davey Boy Smith. Bulldog comes to the ring accompanied by Jim Cornette, and he's sporting a new haircut.
Yes, a much more sleek and streamlined version of the Bulldog.
I think this hairstyle suits him and his wrestling in this match. He seems super light on his feet, he's picking up Razor with ease, and he just seems very acrobatic.
Yeah, he moves really well in this match, and I think he's a formidable opponent for Razor Ramon. However, the match doesn't really get to have a distinct finish.
In revenge for being attacked at SummerSlam, Dean Douglas comes out and attacks Razor. 1-2-3 Kid comes out to help defend Razor, and Dean Douglas gets him too.
Then 1-2-3 Kid tries again to help Razor, but winds up taking out Razor.
And the match gets thrown out. At this point, Vince comes out to mediate between 1-2-3 and Razor.
1-2-3 Kid made his debut 2 years prior in some sort of like fluke win against Razor Ramon. He got him real fast, and he was actually known as the Lightning Kid in his first appearance, and then because of the 1-2-3 clean pinfall, he became the 1-2-3 Kid, and they went back and forth. They had kind of a feud for a long time, but eventually became very close friends. And now it's getting very emotional. These good friends are having a bit of a feud because they have each cost one another a match, and 1-2-3 feels like he's tired of being treated like a kid by Razor, and he challenges Razor to a match on the following week's Raw. But the whole time, Jerry Lawler's like recorded off camera, giving like really loud, annoying interjections throughout this whole interaction. Did you have a hard time hearing what they were saying because of him?
Come on, McMahon, go ahead and say it. You got to say the kid cost Razor the match.
Watched your back.
Yeah, it was like Beavis and Butthead talking over music videos. It was kind of distracting, and you weren't really paying attention to the conversation between Vince, Razor, and 1-2-3 Kid.
Yeah, and it was just weird how loud he was. I think that Vince looks really good in this raw blazer that he's wearing.
Yeah, Vince's outfit is kind of weird. He's got like a red preacher collar on with his black shirt, and it just makes him look all the more devilish. Next up, we have a tag team match between the Brooklyn Brawler and Rad Radford versus the Smoking Guns.
I didn't really have any strong feelings about this match.
I didn't either. I found it was underwhelming, and all I could think about the whole time was how uncomfortable it must be to wrestle in denim and how stinky those pants must be by the end of a match.
I think that's fair. The Brooklyn Brawler is someone who is kind of a jobber, carpenter type character, always loses matches, but is a skilled wrestler nonetheless, and does a lot to kind of give newer guys exposure and in-ring experience with a talented and experienced worker. However, pairing him with Radford, at one point, I don't know if it's on this episode, but they say that Radford is Courtney Love's boyfriend. They try to push him as this like kind of grunge guy. It's a really dumb character that I think doesn't stick around too much longer. I think it's a little weird how big of a pop the Smoking Guns get here because I just think they're really bland. I don't really have any strong feelings about them. Do you like them?
I like them. I think it's odd that they're not bigger at this point because they do have a good look.
Yeah.
But it is an odd angle, and it isn't the most appealing.
Yeah, when they were first introduced, they had all these vignettes where they were like riding horses together, and I do feel like at a time they came out with little cap guns. Am I wrong?
I think they did.
For those who don't know, the Smoking Guns was a tag team of brothers. They're not brothers in real life, but in-ring brothers, Billy Gunn and Bart Gunn. Billy Gunn would go on to become Mr. Ass, Mr. Badass Billy Gunn.
Bart Gunn would go on to eventually win the Brawl for All, which was a boxing tournament in which wrestlers actually boxed each other.
Yeah, that we'll get into later on in the future, but it's a pretty messed up event.
Kill the brain, and you kill the ghoul. Night of the Living Dead, 1968.
Yeah. Goldust would open his vignettes with a movie quote, and he'd give the title and release date of the movie, and I really like these a lot.
I like it. It works.
They are kind of introducing Goldust through just these weird little video vignettes where he kind of just talks about gold and himself and fame, and
It's almost like a little diary entry.
yeah. He's got a nice little hat on here, and if you look closely, you can see he's got lipstick all over his teeth. Goldust is coming out of WCW, where he was wrestling under his real name of Dustin Rhodes. He's the son of Dusty Rhodes. And, I mean, I really liked him in WCW. He had a lot of really great matches and was just this big brawler. And Goldust, I mean, we'll get into it as time goes on. Very polarizing character, I'd say.
Definitely.
And they start explaining the character Goldust to me and it being androgynous. Now, I don't know what that word means.
In case it isn't clear enough already that they're trying to keep Goldust's sexuality ambiguous, Vince McMahon at the end of this promo says, "Oh my god, Tu Wong Fu, eat your heart out." In case that reference is lost on people, Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar is a 1994 movie where Patrick Swayze, John Leguizamo, and Wesley Snipes play a bunch of drag queens who go on an adventure together. So, there's that.
In our third match of the night, we've got Scott Taylor versus Dr. Isaac Yankem.
I don't really love the Isaac Yankem character. He debuted as Jerry Lawler's personal dentist, and he comes out to just the sound of a drill.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of him?
I want to hate him, and I think that they're achieving their goal by making me feel that way, because he is a totally unappealing character.
True, and he's got like gunk in his mouth to make it look like his teeth are all messed up.
He's really hard to look at.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't like him, but I don't think I'm supposed to.
Fair enough. Isaac Yankem eventually will become Kane, but we are a long way from that right now.
And Scott Taylor will go on to become Scotty Too Hottie.
This is like a total squash match again. To show how much they don't care about Scott Taylor, he doesn't even get an entrance. He's just already in the ring, and I only knew who he was because halfway through the match, Vince ends up saying his name.
Yeah, I believe at the beginning of this match I said, wait, who is the other guy?
Yeah. Anyway, it's a quick victory for Isaac Yankem. Not much else to say.
After that, we have a check-in with everybody's favorite guy. Just kidding, Todd Pettengill.
Yeah, he's doing this thing that he would do pretty regularly, which is a report on the upcoming pay-per-view event, which is in your house this time around. And again, another really dated reference. He opens up the thing by slamming Mad About You.
Certainly glad to see we're not moving to Sunday nights like Mad About You. NBC's got a lot of confidence in that show, huh?
So, if anyone doesn't know, that was a romantic sitcom, kind of rom-com comedy sitcom with Paul Reiser. Pretty good. Todd goes over what's going to occur at the next pay-per-view, and after that, we're treated to a little advertisement for some WWF merch. You can look just like Shawn Michaels.
Guys, this is so cool. Take a look at what's on my head.
This is a very sexy match. We've got Shawn Michaels in his classic heart glasses and his pleather hat and his assless chaps. And they really play this up all night to kind of an uncomfortable degree.
Yeah, they really sex him up big time.
He does like a little strip tease before the match.
Yeah, and I don't feel like Sid gets much of an entrance at all. I think his entrance is actually interrupted by the merch promo before the match. So, I don't know. They really want people to get wet for Shawn Michaels.
I would say that this is the most exciting match of the night. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say so of everything we had there. I always like watching Sid, and I mean, Shawn Michaels is a great worker. Probably not the best match from either guy, but I don't know. There was a lot to enjoy here.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels sold it really well. At one point, Sid has him up on the turnbuckle and he's kind of laying across diagonally and he gives him a really good like pop to the stomach. Thought that was pretty great. Psycho Sid has Ted DiBiase with him. I think it's great to see him again. I really miss seeing him in the ring, but it's great to see him as a manager.
Yeah, I think that he has an injury that's going to keep him from wrestling pretty much ever again, but it is cool to see him at ringside.
To end the match, Shawn Michaels gives Psycho Sid a series of 3 kicks, which brings him to the ground, and Shawn Michaels wins with a pinfall. Shawn Michaels clearly gave his all to this match. He looks exhausted, but he is not so exhausted that he can't give a little strip tease.
Another little strip tease.
Another little strip tease. This time the lights in the arena go down, and
he has, we don't know this, he's wearing 2 sets of tights, which can't have been easy to wrestle in, but he pulls one off entirely, and Vince McMahon says,
And just how raw are we gonna get? Oh, baby!
and the crowd is going wild, but then he starts going lower, and
he's going so low.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna see his ding dong today.
you get the pube area and a little bit of a top biscuit in the back.
Yeah.
And Vince says something along the lines of, "This is the kind of action you only get on Monday Night Raw." And it's like, how do I sell this wrestling program? I don't know. A naked grown man? Let's do that.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
I have heard Bret Hart and a couple other people say that they thought Shawn was just very lewd and they didn't like the sort of over-the-top sexuality. But this is kind of going to become the norm very soon, where a lot of, scantily clad men playing up the sort of more sexual angle of what's happening. And also, every woman you see is going to be in a mini skirt, and they're going to be doing these stupid upskirt shots every time they go to the ring. Like, the idea of showing a lot of skin is going to become the norm on WWF before too long. So it's a sign of things to come. After the match, we are treated to a backstage interview conducted by Doc Hendricks, who you might know as Michael P.S. Hayes or Michael Hayes. He's been in the industry for a very long time, and I think continues to look stranger and stranger as time goes on. Doc is talking to Shawn and Big Daddy Cool about an upcoming tag match they're going to have in your house. And I'll be quite honest, I could not keep track of what they were discussing with all these stipulations. Interim president Gorilla Monsoon is giving the match all these stipulations where if Shawn Michaels or Big Daddy or anybody like leaves the match early, they can lose the belts. Normally, if you don't lose by submission or pinfall, you keep your belt. So if you were losing a match and you decided to walk away and get disqualified, you don't actually lose your title. And that was something that Shawn and Diesel were doing for a short time. They kind of got the reputation for being cop-outs about that kind of thing. And so Gorilla Monsoon put the stipulation there, but there's other stipulations. I found the whole thing to be kind of confusing.
I'm going to make some changes.
I think that the dynamic between Shawn and Big Daddy Cool, and I don't like calling him that. Diesel works, but
Diesel was way cooler.
Big Daddy, they're trying to push the two dudes with attitudes name for their tag team, but the dynamic between them is very special.
Yeah, watching them interact with each other, I can never really focus on what they're saying. But especially here, Shawn was making all sorts of goofy faces that were hilarious.
Yes.
So that was one thing that distracted me from whatever they were talking about. And they always seem to have had a very intimate relationship.
I think that one could ship Big Daddy Cool and the Heartbreak Kid.
I definitely could.
Wrestling in the 90s, and even before that, but big time in the 90s, was often very homophobic. Homosexuality was often the butt of a joke. But all that aside, I can't help but see like a sort of intimate, more, I don't know, sexual bond between Shawn Michaels and Diesel when they're together. Like, Shawn is always wearing the assless chaps, and he's got hearts all over the place, and he's always like writhing around Diesel and rubbing his chest and just kind of like, you know, and he calls him Big Daddy. Like, I don't know how intentional it is, but it's hard to not read that sometimes. Am I wrong?
I think not only that, but they do seem to have a very pure working bond.
They're definitely buddies.
Yeah.
But the characters.
But I mean, the characters are also purely fighting for one another.
Yes. There's a serious sense of
Dedication.
honor and dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you also kind of read them as lovers sometimes?
Yeah. Even in this interview, Big Daddy Cool seems to have this proud, goofy smile. Maybe I'm reading into things too much, but he even says, not only are we two dudes with attitudes, we're two chaps with all the straps.
Yeah, they really love like being like the boys.
Yeah. It's cute.
It's cute. Maybe somebody can work on some Big Daddy Cool Heartbreak Kid fan fiction for us. That's it for Raw this week, but let's take a quick look at what's going on in the ECW around the same time. Now, I'm not sure if ECW Hardcore TV actually aired on Tuesdays, but the date on the network is Tuesday, September 12th, one day after the airing of these episodes of Raw and Nitro. And one of the first things I noticed was that Dean Douglas is still appearing in their opening montage as Shane Douglas. And it won't be too long before Shane Douglas returns to ECW where he belongs, really. There's a lot going on in ECW at this time, and the pacing of these shows is kind of strange because what they would do is tape everything, cut it down, and then Joey Styles would do announcing and play-by-play separately. He'd watch the tapes and kind of do it right there and record it. So it's paced a lot differently than a live TV show. One match I want to highlight is the Steiner brothers, who recently left WWF, against Too Cold Scorpio and Chris Benoit. Now, Too Cold Scorpio was also recently in WCW. Chris Benoit had not yet made his way to WCW, but would soon. And this match is crazy. It opens up with some great mat work between Scott and Chris, and the whole match just filled with a ton of really crazy spots and really aggressive wrestling that is way more engaging than anything we saw on Nitro or Raw that week.
The Steiner brothers do seem a lot more suited for ECW. They do just look kind of funny, though. It looks as if they were just plucked from WWF and dropped into ECW because they haven't changed their look at all.
Yeah, but it totally works. And Man, it's a really good match. I strongly suggest looking it up.
Both the Steiner brothers are in really good shape. Even you noted that Scott was just like a tank.
He's so thick.
So thick.
I don't believe you see it on this episode, but there are other episodes where the Steiners give promos in ECW, and they are so crass and aggressive in a way that wasn't really shown in their time in WWF. And you start to see shades of the Big Papa Pump character, which is pretty sweet, and another example of ECW kind of being ahead of the curve with what would come later on in professional wrestling. With all that said, it's time to assign points to the shows. As we said last time, each week we're going to assign points based on what we think is the best entrance/look, best promo/storyline, best commentary, best sign in the crowd, and overall best match of the night. So let's get started. Who do you think had the best look overall between Nitro and Raw this week?
I have to say Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well.
I know you might expect us to pick a wrestler for the first one, but his whole suit, jacket, pants was out of this world.
Yeah, he had a really crazy, and he's known for having outlandish looks, but the airbrush work on this Hulk Hogan suit was bonkers.
It was really detailed.
Yeah. I really wish there was some sort of online archive of all of the different suits that he wore, and also all of the different tights that Rick Rude would wear.
Yeah, there has to be. Somebody has to have that.
If that exists, please let us know in the comments. And for anyone who doesn't know, Rick Rude would often have his tights airbrushed with depictions of either himself or sort of threatening, intimidating caricatures of him defeating his opponents.
Yeah, kind of like a collage, like oil painting on his tights.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. Next up, we're looking at who had the best signs. Now, I honestly didn't get blown away by any of the signs in WCW this week. And granted, we are a little ways away from the kind of like peak sign era of 90s wrestling, but I don't know, what do you think was the best sign?
There was one out there that I really loved, and it said, "Razor, I want your machismo babies, Chico."
That was a very good sign. I did enjoy that one, but my favorite pick was this one that we're going to show right here, which is this really great drawing of Razor Ramon. I love how much care went into this sign. I think it's so good. I hope the person still has it. I don't know. What do you think of that one?
It's a very close, almost tie, but I think the point has to go to that one.
All right, so Razor Ramon, hand-drawn sign, gets the point for Raw. Moving on to commentary, I think that the commentary team on Nitro is still finding their footing. There was a really weird bit they were doing where Mongo kept being like, if I could just say something, and then they wouldn't let him speak, and they go, and I know you want to say something. It felt like a Comedy Bang Bang bit or something. It was very bizarre. I didn't really get it.
I couldn't really tell if it was a bit.
I only think it was because they did it multiple times.
Yeah, that's true. It was very odd.
And I don't mean to keep bashing the dog, but it's so dumb having the little dog there. I just don't feel like between the Brain, Bischoff, and Mongo's character, between having the dog looking like the bootleg Pendulette, and maybe his whole character trait is that he can't get a word in edgewise. It just it doesn't feel cohesive. I don't feel like the roles are totally played out. I do think Bischoff is great at the play-by-play, and I like his energy. It kind of reminds me of Vince.
Yeah.
But I got to give it to Vince and Jerry Lawler. I think they are a way better team. And they've only been working together for, I don't know, a little over a year now, I think.
Yeah, even though Lawler can be really, really annoying and talk over stuff that we might want to hear, he's got great quips. He's got a lot of jokes. Very funny and very quick.
Yeah, I really liked when he called the woman in the crowd a pooper scooper.
Pooper Scooper!
So moving on to promo/storyline, Raw wasn't really bringing it this week for me. I mean, as much as I did enjoy that heartfelt interaction between HBK and Diesel, the whole 1-2-3 Kid Razor Ramon angle is kind of lame, and we didn't mention it, But they give a preview to next week's Raw because it's all pre-taped. And they show 123 Kid in the ring ready to start crying because his friendship with Razor might be ruined.
Does the Kid lose the match, or does he lose a friend? Find out next week on Monday Night Raw.
And they leave it an open-ended question. Will he still have a friend at the end of this? It kind of feels like it's preying on young people's emotions.
Yeah.
And isn't that kind of like a cartoon thing they would do?
Yeah, it's really kind of corny. It feels like it feels very childish and corny.
Yeah.
Over on the Nitro end of things, Ric Flair's promo was very confusing. I didn't really get it. And the bit at the end, which advanced the storyline for War Games, was much more confusing and awkward, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. I really liked it, and I care much more about the can we trust Lex Luger? Can we trust this invader? I care about that so much more than, will Razor and 123 still be friends?
Yeah. As confusing as it was, it still moved things along to a degree.
Yeah. And do you think you're more invested in that angle than the friendship angle?
Yeah.
Points go to WCW for that one. Our last category is overall best match of the week.
Do you have any feelings about this? Because I know who I choose.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of pretty bland matches. A couple great spots here and there, but overall not really grade A wrestling from either show. I gotta say, best match for me was Psycho Sid versus Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
Yeah, same for you?
Yeah.
Points go to Raw. So this week wraps up with Raw leading by 1 point. It's 2-3 as of September 11th, 1995. So that's what we thought, but we're sure you have different opinions. So please get down in the comments, let us know what you think. Where would you give the points? And we'll continue to kind of look at our reaction to things compared to your reaction to things. And as we continue this journey through the entirety of the Monday Night Wars, we'll see who really won Monday Night Wars.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like what we're doing, please give a like to this video, subscribe to our channel, and if you really like it, please subscribe to us on Patreon, and you can get early access to all of our videos and more.
Well, you know something, Mean Gene? War Games a week away. It's not bad enough. Vader's going AWOL on us. I got Luger coming out, getting in my face 2 weeks in a row, brother. Giving me the run for my money. Match of my life, brother. Where are you coming from, Luger? How come they didn't lay their hands on you when they jumped on my back? Which side are you on, brother?
I'd like to say double goes for me. I'm asking you also.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a second. Hold on. Hold on a second. Hold on a minute. Look around. Look around here. Does this look like something big? Hey, come on, man. Vader's out of the picture. And it looks like the total package. Come on. With all due respect, he gave even you a run for the money, Hulkster. To me, this is the team. Look, this is the team. This is the team.
No, it's not the team! I'd rather go 4 versus 3, because if we win, we get the Taskmaster. Buddy, I'm gonna tell you something, bottom line. I'd rather know that nobody's on our side helping us, rather than getting stabbed in the back by Luger coming out here showing something other than what needs to happen.
Hey, let me say something, Macho Man. You and I got nothing against each other, right?
Exactly.
And you want to win War Games, right?
Exactly.
Okay, well, so do I. So that means that I vote Luger in, man. I vote Luger in.
I respect that. But I needed to ask you a question.
All right, go ahead.
How come the Dungeon of Doom came in and attacked Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, but didn't touch you and Jimmy Hart?
Wait a minute! Are you saying I'm not red and yellow? In case you didn't know it, I'm the one that came back to get you and Sting to help the Hulkster!
There you go. There you go. That's it. Listen to him. Listen to what Jimmy's trying to say.
Wait a minute, brothers. Let me put this all together. Are you saying we should let Lex Luger take Vader's place at War Games? Hulkster! This is America, baby! see. You have the final vote, baby!
Looks like it's your call.
Bottom line, I vote no. So it's 1-1, brother. I'll tell you, I got a feeling that he ain't right.
Listen, Macho Man, you can have your vote, but you're only one of 4 votes.
Okay, brother, you want him in, you want him out. I'm torn apart. But the way I look at War Games, brother, when you put all the men in the cage, we'll see what everybody's made of. Luger, would you be our partner, brother? We want to test you at War Games, brother.
I'll step in there at War Games and stand with you, side by side, blow by blow, one condition. I want that title shot down the line you promised.
See, he's got an ulterior motive.
We really won the the Monday. Raw opens up with a package of...
On our last episode, we, the first episode of Fuck My Ass. So this week's wraps ups. So this week's, fuck.
Thanks for tuning in. If you've liked...